Hey loves, welcome to a Techo Kaigi video. We're getting some pretty intense light from the window, and I've got all of the journals that we started off with. I did take notes of what I started off the year with and what we ended up using in Q1, so we can kind of go through it. I figured that we can kind of go through what the year started with, just a quick recap of that, what I ended up doing in Q1, and then at the end I'll talk a bit about some changes that I already foresee happening in Q2. And yeah, so if that's something that you're interested in watching, then go ahead and keep doing so. So I took some notes to prepare, and I have here how the year started and what the intention was with my 2025 lineup, which if you are interested in watching the video where I go more in depth, I will link that up above. And then I have how I ended Q1. And so let's go ahead and do a rapid fire of how we started the year. First of all, let's look at functional systems. I started with the Take a Note A5 with the weekly supplement. Close the blinds a bit so that it wouldn't be so intense. So we had the Take a Note A5, the weekly supplement, and where is the bi-weekly? The bi-weekly tan was another one that I was going to be using for my functional system. So that was that. Then next up was morning pages, which I was using a Leuchtturm A5. That is something that I am still using, so we can use that there. Then we have my passport as my EDC. And then I have my art journalings, if you will, and that was going to be in the Hobonichi Cousin, which was left over from last year, and my A5 rings. And then for memory keeping, we had my A5, or rather my standard TN, kind of like all-in-one system. I had the hours journal, and then I had the Hobonichi weeks. So this was technically what my system was looking like. And then in addition to this, I had, like as a bonus, I guess, my sticker hub was located inside of the Olive TN, which as you can see, the Olive TN is now being housed differently. So there's a little spoiler there. But that was how the year was meant to start, and obviously there was a few changes. So we're gonna go ahead and do this by category. I have 5 categories: A, B, C, D, E. Yep, 5 categories, one being functional system, one being morning pages, the everyday carry, my art and creative journaling systems, and then my memory keeping systems, which is the bulk of my journals, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and say morning pages and passport TN first, because those are the things that are pretty much the same. I'm gonna go ahead and move these to the side so they're not invading my space. So for morning pages, I am still inside of this A5 Leuchtturm, and the goal with the morning pages is to use up any journals that I have left over that maybe have been started and haven't been finished, and I believe this is the last one of those that I have. So as soon as I finish this one, I have to decide on whether I want to continue in an A5 size or go into a bigger size, like maybe a B, what is it, B5? Is that the big one? Or an A4. Those are something that I'm considering. But as of right now, morning pages is still going in this A5 journal. I am on page 160, no, 159 of 251. Something that is different about the morning pages, though, is that I was just using this for morning pages, but now, sort of halfway into Q1 and moving forward, I'm using this for all long form journaling. So anytime that I need to kind of process, whether that's in the morning, at night, or anywhere in between, any long form journaling is going in here so that it's kind of multi-purpose, and I also use them up a little bit faster. So whenever it's time for me to process and, you know, get some writing in, this is the journal that I use. So it's not just housing morning pages, it's also housing any type of long form journaling. And then the passport EDC, it started off with just a couple of inserts. I have moved some out of here. So it just has this clear insert that has my cards and a eyeglass cleaner. And then I have the craft folder, which has some medical cards that I took out for the point of this video. I have this little grid insert, which is just an inbox of sorts. I added this pen loop, and then I have my passport sticker release book in here as well. So that's stayed the same pretty much. It was housing my monthly in here, and I was using that for health journaling, but I've kind of dropped off and I just took it out so that it wasn't just in here. I replaced it with this insert that just whenever I need to write something, I'll put it in here. It's just a little inbox of sorts, and it is my wallet, essentially, is what I'm using it for. I'll talk a bit more about this one later when we talk about potential changes, because this is potentially changing for Q2, but we'll get to that section in a bit. So that's the Passport EDC. That has not changed very much, just some things here and there, but the essence of it has stayed the same. Same with the morning pages. Essence has stayed the same, even though we have a couple of different things going on in here. Let me go ahead and see if I can adjust the ISO on here. Not the ISO, but the exposure, because it's getting a little dark. Okay, something else that hasn't really changed all that much is my art journaling system. I am still using the Hobonichi as an art journal. Let me get that over here. So this is the Hobonichi Avec that I was using last year, and I was using it as an art journal and just like a sort of place to create and paste things in. It's sort of like a magpie journal, if you will, and I'm just going through it. I added pen pal letters and glued stuff in. I'm using it for ink journaling and ink play. And yeah, I've been enjoying it. I haven't been using it as much lately other than just for the ink play, but it is a space that if I ever feel the need to create or kind of like glue things in, then I just come in here and do that. I was experimenting with March's currently inked palette in here, and then I did my 8 pen questions in here, or rather my 8 more pen questions. I just glued in stuff, you know. This is really just a place where it's really no pressure. I just come in here when I want to create something or just glue something in, regardless of how it ends up looking. And I've been really loving it. I'm going to keep using this one until it fills up. I definitely have to go in to the monthlies specifically and see what I can do in here. I was thinking of maybe doodles, kind of like a doodle a day type situation. And I have to go into the weeklies as well. So there's still quite a bit of pages in here that I can work in, and as soon as I fill up this bad boy, then we'll do a full journal flip through. But this is going really, really well as my kind of like art journal, magpie, sketchbook, inspiration station situation. And then aside from this, for art journaling and kind of just art in general, I'm using some sketchbooks. I recently got a new sketchbook, this Life Noble Note, which is a cream papered sketchbook, and I have been creating in here. Something about cream paper just feels so inspiring to me, and so I've been having a really good time working in here. Love this one. I've even considered, because I love this paper, I love how it like takes the media that I use. So I've even considered kind of like purchasing some of these and cutting them in half. This is the A4 size. They do have A5 size as well, but yeah, I've been loving the paper in here. So that's a little new addition that happened in Q1 that I've really, really been enjoying, and I'm excited to keep doing this. So that's the kind of like art journaling and creative journaling section of things. Pretty much the same with some minor changes as well. Next up, let's talk about functional systems, because this one, I think that the kind of, when it comes to memory keeping, that's one that's a longer conversation. So let's look at functional. Like I mentioned, when I first started the year, I was going to be using the A5 as my functional system along with these two things. This was going to house my time blocking, essentially. And this was going to house my kind of like statistics, when I posted and how subscribers were starting and ending. It was also going to house, I don't think I was even really sure what it was going to house in the weekly sections, but in the back, it was going to be a space for me to kind of have tabs on my goals. And I did do the setup for that, as you can see here. I was meant to kind of capture wins, ratings, struggle, goals for every single month. And so this was what I was calling, inspired by and where my North Star. But as you can see, I only did it in December. I tried kind of changing it and doing like my dotted day in here in March, and doing some of my like logging in here as well to try and see. I tried using it as a task manager and it just wasn't working. So this was very quickly a bust. And then this one I really enjoyed, but I did find that it was a bit too small. I definitely like having time management. Like when I do my time blocking, I like having it to the 30 minutes, you know, like So here, when we have three different like just spaces for 3 hours, yeah, it didn't. I think I only used this a couple of weeks as well, and this didn't really work as well for me. And then the tan really wasn't working for me in terms of functional planning. I did end up cutting out the sections that I was using for functional planning. I think this only lasted a couple of weeks as well. Something that I realized was that I really needed a space that was more flowy, if you will, it was better at kind of moving, I guess, more fluid, a system that was more fluid and easier to switch up. And I think I talked about this in the recent video where I introduced the A5 rings, which I was using at the beginning of the year as a kind of like overflow art journal, and I have since moved it to become my functional system. When I did the introductions to the rings, I kind of mentioned that the way that I plan and the way that I kind of keep track of goals and such, it really is so fluid and needs a lot of space to kind of evolve and adapt in a way that is only possible in two systems, and that's digital and or rings. And I tried digital and it didn't 100% work. I tried using my iPad in the way that I used to do it back a couple years ago, and it just wasn't working for me. And so what I ended up deciding was to go into rings, again, inspired by Aaron Ware. And I did end up repurposing the Take a Note, which we'll talk about in a sec when we get into the memory keeping. But these two have been left without a purpose at the moment, so we are moving those to the side. They are, as of right now, unsuccessful. I'm going to keep trying to figure out what I could use these for potentially, but for now, they are in the unsuccessful pile. For the A5 rings, I did end up going and moving into here for functional planning, like I mentioned, and I have been loving it. I've been in here for a couple of weeks now, and it's for kind of like an overview, right? Because I've been using Todoist, which is a program. It's a digital program that I've been using for a few years now in my business, and I had kind of stopped because I wanted to go fully analog. But I found that for task management, one of the things that I get really peeved about is like repeating tasks. Having to write down repeating tasks every week really bothers me, and I'm afraid I'm going to forget. So I really like my task management to be digital, and so I've been using that digital system, and it has been amazing. But I need a physical system or something tangible when I'm thinking about planning and kind of figuring out where my energies need to go and kind of figuring out like my goal setting. And so I ended up, inspired by Erin Ware's video where she talked about her A5 rings, looking and seeing that Plotter did have their 2025 inserts. And so I purchased those. And then in here, I just have like a general setup. I have my Q1 and Q2 goals, which I still have to finish, and my Q1 and Q2 wins. I have my notes for my bingo, 2025 bingo card for goals, and then the projects that I want to do. And then I have the monthlies, and then I have the weeklies. And in the monthlies, I kind of figure out what each week kind of entails, what my big task is for the week. And it's just been really, really nice because there's like sensitive information in here. I don't really want to share it, but I'm still trying to figure out how I want to use this to the best of my ability and make it as super functional as I can. But that's the beauty of rings, right? I can move things around, I can add, I can remove, and it still works. And so I've been really, really enjoying it. I still have to figure out what to do with the project folders for the most part. I did end up using one of them for my job as like reference material, which I really, really like because I can have it tucked in here and I can show you it, and it like you don't have to see the confidential information, and I can still have it here. And then here in the back, I have notes pages, which are video ideas, printables ideas, and then I have kind of like my website remodel. I'm going to be redoing my website again, and I have like my intentions for that. And then I have my micro 5 planning, which I'll talk about once I get into the possible changes for Q2. But yeah, I've been really, really enjoying having the A5 rings for kind of like life planning, functional planning, and goal setting. And so I'm really, really excited to continue kind of like adapting the system and making it more suitable for how my brain works. And I really, really love the customizable nature of it as well. So that's what my functional system has changed to. I've been using the A5 rings for goal setting and planning, And then I use the Todoist program for task management. And it's been going really, really well. Kind of just like a quick little side note for the bonus feature. I started off in the olive TN for my sticker hub and then moved it into the brown. And so the brown has been the sticker hub. I do have a video that talks about what I do in here, how I house my stickers. So if you want to check that out, I will leave it linked up above. But yeah, it's been in the brown instead of the olive. Okay, so for memory keeping, we started off, like I mentioned, with the hours journal, the weeks, and the TN. Yeah. So the Hobonichi week started off as my media journal. The hours journal was going to be kind of like my visual journal, but it didn't really have a purpose necessarily. I wasn't really 100% sure how I wanted to take it. I kind of discussed doing my dot a day and also having like a space to commemorate my printables. It was always meant to be a very visual heavy journal, but I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with it. And then my TN was going to house the vertical weekly and my daily logging / all-in-one journal, right? So essentially I was going to be daily logging in here, similar to what I did in 2024 rather, where it was basically going to be everything, right? Like when I wanted to check in throughout the day, it would be in here. If I wanted to put in quotes, if I wanted to do long form journaling, if I wanted to rant, I have quotes in here. And very, very quickly, I found that I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't enjoying this. So I ended up moving out of this for daily logging. And for a little while, I just did my daily logging in the vertical TN, which was supposed to house kind of like more the event-based daily logging. So whereas the A5, I keep wanting to call it A5, the standard TN notebook was going to house kind of like feelings and stream of consciousness, if you will. The vertical weekly was going to house events and things that happened throughout the day. And I really enjoyed that as well. I have a love-hate, I love this spread very, very much. I have a love-hate relationship with the vertical TN weekly, and I'm often going in and out of it. And right now I'm in one of those spaces right here, as you can see, where I am kind of out of it. And so, yeah, this quickly just devolved, I guess. And I ended up falling out of love with the TN system and kind of wanting to move out of it. And then came in the tan because I needed to find a purpose for the tan. And so I was trying to figure out how I was going to do daily logging, where I was going to do it, and all that jazz. I felt the need, aside from just having the media journal, to have a media journal companion. And so I started using that I started using the tan for that. And so the tan became a place where I would write down kind of like media reactions and media reviews. And I was really enjoying it for that. I'm not going to say that I wasn't. I put my songs in here. Again, media reviews, kind of more top songs of the week, quotes, more reviews. It was more commonplacey in nature, but it really was kind of like a commonplace and media reaction space. And I really loved it, but I was kind of struggling with the formatting. And so at this point, I decided that I didn't want to keep using the tan for it. And I ended up purchasing the Hobonichi Cousin instead, which, Alice, please get back in there. The Hobonichi Cousin instead. So I'll get to that in a second. Let me just go ahead and talk about the Hobonichi Weeks. The Hobonichi Weeks is my media journal. And it is where I housed I ended up doing fan arts in the monthlies. And then I also do, let me see if I can find you one that is not, I don't have the censor here. So I was doing the media log and then adding my kind of covers for all of the medias on here. And then I was doing for songs and my little media tracker situation. And I did that for a bit. I have been having some issues with the weeks though, ever since adding the cousin. And so we are in a situation where I might, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for possible changes into Q2, but I might end up dropping the weeks. When I added the Hobonichi Cousin, I love this so much. This is basically my commonplace and my media journal companion. I was doing this kind of like tracker system where I was doing dots to track series and how long things took me. And I really enjoy this. But this month, because I'm having issues, or rather in March, because I was having issues with the weeks, I considered changing to have the monthly fan art in here as well. And I really, really liked that. But in the weeks, for a little bit, I was in the vertical weeklies, I was doing, if I was doing a log in the Hobonichi Cousin, or rather the Hobonichi weeks, in the vertical weeklies, I was trying to do a kind of like schedule of the media that I was consuming and kind of seeing the timeline. And I really enjoyed that. But I have changed it. I've been experimenting with a few things. One of them being kind of doing first songs and doing the lyrics for the first songs in here. I love how this looks. But one of the things I am considering for future weeks is kind of changing this up still. I haven't 100% found what I enjoy doing in this section. With the possibility of moving out of the weeks, then I was thinking of potentially doing media logging in this part and then just keeping my commonplacing in the dailies. And so the dailies have a few things. I do kind of like word banks and there's collections as well for certain things. And I've been enjoying it. This is not a journal that I'm necessarily in every single day, but it is one that I want to be more frequently inside. And so it's another one where I'm kind of trying to consider what it is that I want to do and how I can change things up so that I'm in it more often. This week I've been a little behind on, or this week I've noticed rather that I've been behind on journaling and it's been causing me a bit of stress. And so I'm trying to consider what I can do to make it a little bit easier for me to be in my journals more often and so that I don't have to create a backlog, right? So this has quite a bit of backlogging that I need to do, but this has been really, really, I've been enjoying it very much. The Hobonichi Cousin and the Hobonichi Weeks, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, are two journals that every single year I try to avoid because historically they don't 100% work for me, and every single year I go back into them because I just love them so much. I think I was watching a video by Tori, from Tori on Paper, and I think she said something about like how Hobonichi laces their journals with something that makes you addicted to them, and I can 100% agree. But yeah, I've been really, really loving this as my commonplace, and unfortunately struggling a little bit with the weekly. Now, once I added the Hobonichi Cousin, right, to the system and I didn't have a purpose for the tan, I kind of went through a few things. I first tried using it as a space to blog my wins and pebbles, which is a kind of reflective type journaling that I do to kind of look at what went well in the day and what was not as great. And I was not as consistent with that. And so that kind of fell off really quickly. But then at one point I was like, oh, okay, how about I try daily logging in here, because I didn't really have a space where I was doing that. And I felt a need to do so. Daily logging is one of those types of journaling for me that is very, very important. It's an act, it's a way for me to kind of be more present. It's a form of self-care. And so I tried doing daily logging and it's been working really, really well in here. Something that I'm still kind of working on is this section. I don't 100% know what works for me here. And I've tried a few other things, which I'll kind of go through. This first week I tried doing gratitude journaling and I did manage to get that all the way through. And I like that, but I'm kind of experimenting with other aspects for gratitude journaling. And I really liked it for daily logging. I go ahead whenever I check into here, I add the timestamp. And as you can see, some days have more activity than others, and I'm okay with that because daily logging really is just an act of presence, like I mentioned. This week, is it this week? Yeah. This week, I watched a video by a creator that in their Hobonichi Cousin, I believe, she does like this check-in situation, and it inspired me. And so I added this kind of delineating line with washi tape, also inspired somewhat by Bronte from Bronte Plants. She does that in her vertical weekly in the Cousin. And I made this section be kind of like a check-in point for the morning where I do my sleeping and awake times. And then at first I was doing kind of like the first emotion, but I did change that up to be the weather most recently. And this week I attempted, after having a conversation with Mina from Mina Pomelo, she was mentioning that she really liked how I used to do my health journaling in the Hobonichi weeks. There's a video if you want to check that out, that I go through that. And she was saying that she really enjoyed it. And I looked at that video and I was inspired by myself. You can inspire yourself, people. It's one of the best sources of inspiration. And I tried doing some of that in here and I really liked it. But again, I didn't end up keeping up with that. This is inspired by Audrey from Audrey Logs. She does these little speech bubbles, which are beautiful and I love them. And I really like this spread as well. I really like this delineating line, having this little space up here. I like how it breaks up the page quite a lot. So I lost my train of thought because I got a phone call, an important phone call. But basically what I was saying is that, yeah, I'm really enjoying the daily log aspect in here. I tried, at this point, I was trying to do like energy levels. So a kind of like riff off of this, but an easier one. I tried doing wins again, and then at this point I was like, you know what if we try doing media logging in here, because I've been struggling with the media log in here, so why not try that? And so I did that. Oh, and then I moved my habit tracker to here. I did that this week, and in this one, I love this spread as well. In this one, the only thing I didn't like about this was that I went over one of the lines and had to do these like delineating lines that I didn't really love. But then I decided, okay, let me try and do the media log, like use this media log here. You can kind of see. I tried to do the media logging here and then do weather in this section, and then also try to do some habit tracking in here as well, because really what's been the issue in this is that I decided I wasn't going to do the kind of like images in the side. Can I show you this one? Yeah, the images in the side, like I was doing here. I decided I wasn't going to do this anymore. And so I needed something to do here, and I have not found something that I enjoy. And so I've just been struggling with the weeks. And so this week I tried doing kind of like the media log on this section, and then the little logs that I was doing up here, do it here, and then do kind of like the emotion with my little bubble emojis. Not bubble, balloon emojis. And I noticed yesterday was Thursday, I noticed that I was feeling completely uninspired and blocked. Do you know when you guys are like reading and you're trying to get through a book that you really want to read, but it is causing you to get, and does cause you to get into a reading slump? That's what I was feeling yesterday with journaling. I felt like I was trying to make myself work through some journals to make sure that I could still use them, and it was causing me to become uninspired and not want to journal. Oh my lord, what is that? This sun is not doing me any favors, guys. So I am one of those people. I experiment a lot, as you can see, and I try to use different journals. If I end up not using it for one thing, I try to go in and make changes so that I can use it for something else. And sometimes that really works, like in the case of this one, right? Like I have been enjoying daily logging in here quite a lot, and sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay. At the end of the day, this is my hobby, and it's not just my hobby, it's also like one of my jobs, right? Because I share this content with you guys and I share it on Patreon. It's also something that I need to provide you guys. And so it's okay, like to experiment with certain things and to let things go. This week, I attempted at doing, again, my daily logging. I tried doing something different up here because I was doing the log in this section and I was not liking it. And so I ended up doing it this morning in here instead. And I was watching a video by a Japanese creator. I've been watching so much Japanese creator videos these past couple of weeks this last couple of weeks. And I've been loving it so much. I've been so inspired. I'll talk a bit more about that when I get into possible changes for the next quarter, for quarter 2. But one of the things that I really liked was they use a lot of these stamps, and I can't remember in what way they were using it, but I was like, oh, what if I kind of like disregard these lines and I just stamp the days and put whatever media, and that way I don't really have to worry about the delineating line. And so I tried that today. I put this in here and I like how it looks. I actually really like how it made the spread look, because I was not particularly enjoying this week's spread, and the fact that I added this kind of like black boldness to it, I really enjoy. And I'm gonna keep doing the daily logging in here. and I did these trackers in here, which will potentially get moved as well. I'll talk a bit about that in a second. But yeah, I have been enjoying daily logging in here, even though it was a little bit precarious the last couple of days. Like this week has been really rough in here, and I think it's because I did this change and I don't really like it. I've been thinking a lot about, and it's funny because when I was watching the Techo Kaigi video from my Techo Kaigi video for the start of the year, I talked about the journaling routine of it all, right? Like morning, what I want to journal in the morning, how I want to journal during the day, and journaling at night. And I thought that was a concept that I only recently started to think about. But lo and behold, I even mentioned it in that video. So it is something that has been of concern to me for quite a long time. And so that was really interesting to see as well. And so yeah, I think that we are getting closer and closer to the death of the Hobonichi weeks, at least for now. I did add the wabi sabi little charm here, by the way. Until I can figure out something else to do with this that I might enjoy more. One other thing that I ended up changing that I've been doing in here, I kind of went through a couple of phases in this insert because I do love the paper. I did some long form journaling in here for a little bit, and then at one point I was doing Winds, Pebbles, and kind of like final review. And most recently, and I'm not going to share this because it's a bit private, but most recently I've been doing kind of like a type of gratitude journaling in here in the morning. And so a really fun thing, one of my things that I have issues with when I do stamping is that I lose out on ink. Like I feel like it's a waste of ink if I'm only putting this once. So I figured that when I do my morning here and I stamp this, I can stamp it in the daily log as well. And that way I'm not wasting a whole bunch of ink. But yeah, I've been doing kind of like gratitude journaling in here, and I have been enjoying that the past couple of weeks. Or rather, the past couple of days. I only started it this week. And then finally, the hours journal, which has been the only journal really that as soon as I realized what I wanted to do with it, it has remained the same. And so I use the hours journal as my joy journal. And so oh my goodness, this postcard keeps coming off every single time. In here, the only thing I'm kind of gonna change a little bit is that moving forward, I kind of want to figure out the monthly a little bit because I have the commonplace. I feel like I'm repeating a bit the images, even though I love it. When I first started doing these types of spreads, I didn't have the commonplace. And so I do think I'm going to switch things up a little bit in this monthly. But yeah, this is my picture heavy journal where I do all of my joy journaling, and I love it. I'm a bit behind. I did manage to print all the photos, but I do have to go in and actually do my commentary. I haven't done that. So I think this is the last, nope, this is the last one. This is the last one where I have it done. I still have to catch up on quite a few weeks, but I'm also doing my currently inked in here for each month. Where is it? So I've been doing my currently inked in here, and then I've been doing kind of like mood/meme pages. So these are memes that I feel represent me, and I am obsessed with them. It's so much fun. And then I added a Luffy page to the back. So fun little Luffy images I put in here. And at the end of the year, this will be full of Luffy and bring me so much serotonin because Luffy does bring me so much joy. So that is basically what I was using in Q1 and how the kind of like the quarter ended. I want to talk now a little bit about possible changes in quarter 2. So like I mentioned earlier, I've been watching a lot of Japanese content, and the Japanese and Techo Kaigi inspired me to get a M5 journal rings binder, and so I purchased that, and that will be arriving at some point in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to reorganize these notebooks so that it's a little easier. So I am thinking about ring binders a lot lately. And again, thinking about like journals that I want to be in during the day versus journals that I want to check into in the morning and journals that I want to check out to at night. And so thinking a lot about rings now that I have the A5 rings and that's going so well, and the customizability of it. I've been thinking a lot about the system Techo, which is basically ring planners that the Japanese talk about pretty often, and I have had a lot of rings on the mind, essentially. And so I was considering possibly moving some of my media journaling and commonplacing into a rings system, personal size rings perhaps, Bible size rings perhaps. And so that's one of the things that I'm thinking about. And for sure, we're going to be adding the M5, which actually, where is my rings? So I can, well, I think that's fine. Basically, the M5 is going to be replacing my passport as my everyday carry. And I did buy, again, inspired by Techo Kaigi, the M5 double rings from Ashford. So it's double-sided rings. And I'm really, really excited for that to arrive. So once it does, I will do an unboxing and kind of like an overview of how that's going to change. That does mean that my passport now will be useless in the sense that it won't have a purpose, or I guess not useless, but purposeless. So I have to think about what I want to use that for, because I do love my passport quite a lot. And then another thing that I was thinking about was with rings, I bought from Ashford as well, kind of like a rings insert, and I'm thinking of potentially putting it in here. And if that fits, that'll be life-changing, but we shall see. I'm not 100% sure if it'll fit in here or not. That's something to figure out, but I have these two Tragan covers. Those are new as well. I have this in my Hobonichi Cousin, and I use my weeks in here. And yeah, I think that's all. That's kind of like what I've been thinking about, how things have been going. Let me know what you guys think, what your favorite journal is of mine, what your favorite journal is of yours, and if you have any questions. If you've made it this far, drop the thinking emoji in the comments for, you know, perpetually thinking about ways that the journals can change. At this point in the kind of like year, whenever I notice that whenever I start thinking about this video specifically, the Q1 Techo Kaigi, I start thinking about next year. I can't help myself. But yeah, so drop the thinking emoji if you've made it this far. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys!